All right, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Gordon Bagby. I work at Pulaski County District Court. Coach is trying to record this, so please keep the noise down. I'm going to be with you again on Thursday as well, but we have some topics that we want to cover with you all. Now that you're old enough to begin driving, there's a lot of elevated risk that you face in life. The number one cause of teen deaths in this country is automobile collisions. And when you're going to hear that a couple of times today and again on Thursday, by the way, y'all will be tested on this material next week. And that is a question that will be on your test. Trust me, I know I wrote the test. So that's something you'll need to take away and be aware of. Your first few months of driving experience are the most dangerous. We'll have a speaker later on today talking about that. But I'm going to start off by covering the subject of alcohol. I work at a court, Pulaski County District Court, which is over on Roosevelt Road, less than a mile from here, in front of the county jail. That's two places we don't want any of you to ever end up, in any court for any reason, and definitely not in a jail. So we'll talk about some things that are risk factors that you face as teenagers and common reasons people end up getting a ticket and appearing in court. Okay? So I'm going to start off and talk about alcohol because we have a lot of people end up in our court and every court around the world ticketed for drinking and driving. You have a question?
Yeah, what about jury duty?
Huh?
Jury duty?
Jury duty is in circuit court and above. We don't have that in district court. All we do is hear misdemeanors. But those are serious trials that have jury duty. So I'm going to get going here by showing you a video, and you're going to see a prison inmate addressing a high school group. And he's wearing his prison uniform. He's got shackles on. And this first video clip, he's telling the students about what happened to him when he was a young man and he was driving after drinking and what sent him to prison. So watch this, then afterward we'll come up and go over some facts, and then we've got a second video clip where he talks about getting sentenced, and then we'll look at some information on that.
Seven years ago, I was 22 years old. I was trying to have fun. I was trying to enjoy life. But then on April 11th of 2000, I made a choice that night that I'm going to regret for the rest of my life. See, on that evening, I was at a party. At this party, I had 4 mixed drinks. Then my friend Jesse and we got a phone call from some of our friends. They were at another party. I hung up the phone. Jesse and I walked out to my car. I got into the driver's seat. Jesse, he got into the passenger seat, and then we drove off. In high school, drinking and driving was somewhat common. Everyone thought they knew their limitations. I know I thought I knew mine, and especially by the time I was a senior, I had everything under control is what I felt like, and so did many of my friends. It was just a handful of us that were real worried about getting into a vehicle after someone had been drinking. As I was driving down this road, I had my radio up, and Jesse and we were cutting up and laughing. I started to get into a hurry to get to this other party. So I start flying down the road. I get up to like 80 miles an hour. The speed limit was 35. So as I'm flying down this road, I drove up onto this white minivan. As I drove up on this white minivan, the only thing I was thinking about was getting to this other party to have some more fun. So I blew past him. And as I was passing him, down the road a little ways, I see this oncoming vehicle. They have their left-hand turn signal on. So I started gradually getting back over to my lane. As I was getting back over to my lane, I see this gold flash shoot in front of my face. Then bang! I hear this incredibly loud and solid sound. Then everything went black. When my tires came to a stop, that's when I opened my eyes and I found myself pinned on the passenger side dashboard. I couldn't hardly breathe. The only thing I could think about was just trying to find some way to get out of my car. I managed to myself over the driver's side seat and crawl out the driver's side door, where I had to lie there on the side of the road. I couldn't stand up. My right leg had been dislocated from my hip and rolled around on my back, and where my knee had slammed into the dashboard, it was bleeding severely. Thankfully, shortly after the crash, this man came running down to me to let me know he had called for help and that help was on the way. Of course, I was in a tremendous amount of pain. I started to fall in and out of consciousness. The next time I regained my consciousness, there was this officer standing over me. He asked me, he said, "Do you know how fast you were going?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, is there somebody I can contact for you?" I think I gave my mother's name and number. But then he was knelt over me, and as he was knelt over me, he said, "Have you been drinking?" And I immediately said no. I did not want to go to jail for a DUI. I was already thinking it was bad enough that my car was crashed and that Jesse and I's night was ruined. But as I was lying there, I heard someone yell something in the background. And the words I heard yelled that night, I will never forget for the rest of my life. Because while I was so worried about possibly going to jail for a DUI or worried about what happened to my car, I heard someone in the background yell, "There's a fatality on the scene. There's a fatality on the scene." As soon as I heard those words, I knew that somebody had died. I just couldn't believe that something like this was actually happening to me. The only thing I could do was just lie there and pray to God that this was just some horrible nightmare. I was going approximately 77 miles per hour. Now, the reason they know that is because they took a photograph of my dashboard, and my speedometer was stuck at 77 miles an hour. As I was trying to get back over to my lane, the oncoming vehicle, the one with their left-hand turn signal on, it was a big four-door sedan. They tried to make a left-hand turn into a driveway. As they made that turn into the driveway, I could not stop, and I plowed right into the rear passenger door, completely driving through that car, cutting it almost in half, leaving the front half of the car around the driveway. And then the back half, it was ripped off that vehicle and drove 100 feet down the road with my car. The passenger in that car, her name's Mrs. Nellie King. She died on impact. The driver, Mr. William King, he and I were life-flighted to a hospital. And that is where Mr. King died several hours later. Next time I remember opening my eyes, I looked around, I noticed I was lying in this hospital bed, in this hospital room. The only thing I could do was look up at the ceiling and think to myself, man, I just killed 2 innocent people. They're dead. They're dead. The people who were killed in that crash, I didn't know anything about them, never heard of them. But later on, I found out who they were. I found out that they were somebody's grandparents, and that they were real well known in the community that this crash occurred at. There were some very good, very, very good people. I know that they came from a very large family. And I know that family's been hurt tremendously because of this. I cannot imagine what that family is going through because of my choice. The physical pain was gone after like 6 to 8 weeks. It was over with. The emotional pain, that's never going to go away. I mean, nothing in this world will ever bring those two people back. And nothing in this world will necessarily give back to my parents what they've now experienced, or give back me my life entirely. This is something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. And that emotional pain will not go away.
All right, so let's review a little bit about what you just watched there. When he was driving and had that collision, when they took a photograph of his dashboard, at what speed was he driving? Tell me. Yeah, 77. And what was the speed limit in that area? 35. He was over double what the speed limit was. Hey y'all, speeding tickets are graduated. The faster a person is exceeding the speed limit, the more the ticket's going to cost. And he was probably charged with reckless driving because he crashed into someone while speeding. That's even more expensive. How many people did he kill? Two. That's double homicide. We'll look at his charge a little bit later. So that's what sent him to prison. Now, as we look at this, there's some facts about alcohol and driving that we want to make sure everybody understands. First of all, it's a serious offense, and every year there's about, on average, 12,000 deaths annually caused by drunk drivers. And a lot of times, like in his situation, it's not the drunk driver who dies. They kill innocent people, like he did. Okay? And there's about 800 injuries on average each day of the year. Now let's stop right here. Of the 7-day week, which days do you think you would be most likely to encounter a drunk driver out on the roadway? Okay, y'all are right. It's the weekend, Friday and Saturday, usually. Now, is it in the daytime on Friday and Saturday or in the evening?
Evening.
Right, it's at night. The later it gets on weekends, the more dangerous it gets. I remember when I was your age and I was learning how to drive, and my dad told me something back then, and I just kind of blew it off. Thought he was just trying to scare me, but he said, nothing good happens after midnight. The older I've gotten in life, that's pretty much true. The later it gets, the more dangerous it gets, because you get people out there driving who are impaired or just driving recklessly. Okay? Vehicle crashes. I mentioned this earlier. The number one cause of death for teenagers. Coach Lewis's class, you got a pretest. That's on there somewhere. It will be on your test. You will be asked what is the leading cause of death for teenagers. It is vehicle crashes. And look at this. Alcohol is involved in over half of those fatalities. So there's a takeaway. Want to improve your chance of living by at least 50% on the roadway? Never drink and drive, or never get in a vehicle with somebody who's been drinking. On average, before someone is ticketed for drinking and driving, on average, they estimate they have done that about 80 times without getting caught. We know that because all judges in every court will send someone with an alcohol driving offense. They will send them to an alcohol education class that they have to complete and come back to court and prove that they completed that. And it's at those classes, the people who put those classes on ask them to estimate how many times they drove under the influence before they got their ticket. And it comes out to about 80 times. That's scary, that there's that many people out there driving impaired and not getting stopped. There's certain times of the year the police will have a lot of checkpoints put out, but they can't catch everybody every time. There's also certain holidays. I mentioned earlier about weekends being dangerous. There's certain holidays during the year where the risk of drunk drivers is really high. What is the worst holiday of the year? Y'all go ahead.
Christmas night.
Labor Day.
Y'all getting all around it. It's New Year's Eve that is the worst, because there's a lot of people out drinking on New Year's Eve, and if they don't have a designated driver and they get on the roadway, the risk of encountering somebody is extremely high that night. This old man is going to be safe at my home after dark on New Year's Eve. I am not going to be out on the streets anywhere, because I know better. I hope you do too now. Alcohol causes some health problems as well. This is health class, so y'all pay attention here. Left to right here on the screen, this doctor is holding up two human hearts. The one on the left is a normal size human heart. your heart is about the size of your clenched fist. Okay? It's not real big, but this heart on the right up there is enlarged due to alcohol abuse. That's called cardiomyopathy. Just means an enlarged heart. Anybody know which organ in the body this is right here? Yeah, it's the liver. Good job. Now the liver is the largest internal organ of our bodies. It is the organ that breaks down and detoxifies alcohol. Alcohol is a toxin to our bodies, and it has to be chemically broken down by the liver. The liver can only handle a certain amount of alcohol at a time. A lot of people, though, when they're drinking too much for the liver to be able to handle, and what that will cause is scarring of the liver. All those bumps are scar tissue. That's a condition known as cirrhosis. It is a naturally occurring condition, but most of the time it is a condition that's caused by alcohol abuse over a period of years. And it's fatal. Somebody that gets that, if they don't get a liver transplant, they will die from that disease or that condition. MRI scans right here, you have a normal brain right here. Look, the gray matter fills up the skull, but on this alcoholic's brain, you have large areas where there is no gray matter present. This is where the brain cells have been killed by alcohol, and they won't regrow. That's literally a person who has drank themselves stupid. Only 43 years old. I know that sounds ancient to you all. It's not. It's middle age. A lot of your parents are about that age. That's not that old. It's way too early to be having serious brain loss. Alcohol can also be fatal when it comes to alcohol poisoning. This typically happens with younger people in party scenes where there's a lot of young people gathered together, oftentimes underage drinking. By the way, what is the legal age to drink alcohol in this country?
21.
It's 21, not a day before. No tolerance on it anywhere in the state. Okay? Alcohol poisoning occurs when someone has drank so much alcohol in a short amount of time, they will pass out. What they need is emergency medical care right then. But a lot of times in party situations, they're just ignored. Other people keep on partying, they just leave the person that's passed out, leave them alone, or pull them off to the side and leave them. They need 911 called so their stomach can be pumped out and they can go on IV fluids to keep from dying. But a lot of times they're just ignored and they will end up possibly dying from alcohol poisoning. Okay, next clip. He is going to talk about appearing in court and what he was sentenced with in court for what he caused, and then afterward I'll go over what the same charges would cost someone here in Arkansas, and we'll look at a couple of other facts before we wrap it up.
The plea bargain was reached between the victim's family and the state of Georgia. It said that I'd have to serve 13 years in prison and then complete 17 years of probation. The whole sentence had to equal 30 years. The judge read the sentence off to me, gave me a moment to speak afterwards if I had something to say to the victim's family, and of course I did. Although when I turned around, I wanted to have one last look at my family before I went to prison. I tried to look at them, but they were crying so hard, I just immediately turned, I looked at the victim's family, and then I tried my hardest to apologize. But it didn't matter what I said to them. It was like the whole time I talked to them, I was speaking to them with empty words. I could not change what I'd done. Once I was finished, they came out and they handcuffed me and they escorted me out, and that was my last moment of freedom. On June 1st of 2001, I left to go to this prison. I was scared to death. As soon as we pulled up to the prison, there was so much razor wire on the outside of the fence, you couldn't hardly see through it. Then we pull up through these two gates and we get out onto this blacktop and we unload off this bus. There are these correctional officers standing outside screaming and shouting at us. We then go inside this room. It's called the intake room. As soon as we walk in there are these 4 yellow lines laid out. We all have to stand on those yellow lines together. We then strip butt naked. go into a shower and they spray us down with this stuff that delices us. Then they give us a white jumpsuit, a pair of boots, sit us in a chair and shave all of our hair off our head. First night I had to spend in Jackson, and that cell door closed. And I was locked inside that little cell. I was quite naturally scared to death. I didn't know what kind of person was in the cell with me. I couldn't believe that I was actually in prison. I was terrified. Only thing I could do was just lie there on my bed that night and think to myself, I still have 4,684 days to go, and that this was only my first night.
I don't know about y'all, but just imagine how bad that would be, laying on that uncomfortable mattress only about that thick on a steel plate, thinking of how many thousands of days he had still remaining to serve in that cell before he's released. So let's look at what he was charged with and what the similar charge would cost here in Arkansas. He was in Georgia, but we're here, so we're going to look at what the charge would be right here for us. Negligent homicide was the legal charge against him. Homicide just means killing someone, and negligence is being careless and irresponsible. That's what he was doing by drinking and driving. So in Arkansas, when that's combined with the DWI, we're going to look at that in just a second, it becomes a charge up to 20 years in prison and $15,000 in fines. But that's per count. How many people did he kill? So you double that. 40 years and $30,000 in fines is what he would face here in Arkansas. I don't know about you. You can add 40 years to your age right now, you'll be about my age. That's a long time. I'd be dead 40 years from now, most likely. So I don't have that much money to throw away either. Actions have consequences. Decisions you and I make have legal consequences when we break laws. Two charges here concerning alcohol and driving. I'll give you a hint. The D on each of these stands for driving, but the rest is different. So we have two charges regarding alcohol and driving. First one is DUI. Does anybody know what that stands for? Raise a hand. Okay, you're right. Driving under the influence. Influence of what exactly? Okay. Any substance. Anything that impairs the driver. Usually it's alcohol. A lot of times it's illegal drugs. But it can be even legal drugs. Any medicine, if you're taking it, if it's a prescribed drug, if it's something ingredient in that medicine that would impair you, the pharmacist would warn you when you pick it up. If it's an over-the-counter medicine that you just go get off the shelf, it's up to you to read the label. You're not little kids anymore. You need to start reading labels on medicines before you take anything to see if there's any way that it might impair you. For example, in the springtime, a lot of people have to take antihistamines due to allergies for the pollen in the air. A side effect of antihistamines is that they make you drowsy and sleepy. There's a warning on the bottle that says don't drive while taking this medicine due to that effect. So take responsibility for yourselves and educate yourselves on side effects of medications before you take them, so you know. Okay, we covered DUI. What does DWI stand for?
Driving while impaired.
Close. Okay, driving while intoxicated. Impaired, basically the same thing. And the intoxicant is not defined. It's anything can have a person charged. So let's look at how these are broken down. First of all, by age. DUI is for people that are under the legal drinking age. What is the legal drinking age?
21.
It's 21, not a day before. Okay? DWI is for anyone, and they're also separated by their blood alcohol content or concentration. For a DUI, is 0.02 to 0.07. Now, it's just a bunch of numbers right now, but I'm going to explain what it means. By the way, y'all got to know this for your test. Take note. DWI is 0.08 and higher. Now, here's what that breaks down to. It's measuring the amount of alcohol in the blood from a breathalyzer that the police officer will give somebody during a field sobriety test. And that just measures the concentration of the blood in the airstream, in the lungs. But here's how we break it down. One alcoholic drink is defined in 3 different ways. It's the same amount of alcohol in each of these. First is 12 ounces of beer. That's a standard can or bottle of beer. Beer is about 5 to 6% alcohol, most of them. So 12 ounces of that. 1 wine glass of wine, which holds 5 ounces, but wine is 10 to 13% alcohol, so it takes less volume to equal what's in the beer. Follow me? Higher alcohol content, so it takes less volume to equal what's in one beer. And the final way a drink is measured is by 1 shot glass of alcoholic spirits. A shot glass is about 2 ounces, about twice the size of a church communion cup. Okay, and by alcoholic spirits, I'm talking things like whiskey, vodka, gin, rum, tequila, whatever. All of those are roughly about 40% alcohol, give or take. So it takes a lot less volume of those to measure the same amount of alcohol in 1 beer or 1 glass of wine. But here's the takeaway. 1 drink, 1 of any of those, has enough alcohol to where a person, depending on their body size and how much food they have eaten or not eaten, they could blow a 0.02. Just 1 drink could cause you to get arrested and charged as a minor. Now, not legal for you to be drinking alcohol, but there are legal things that have alcohol in them. A lot of mouthwashes have alcohol in them to kill germs. There are some cough medicines. We're coming up on cold and flu season. We're actually in it right now, beginning of it. There are some cough medicines, you take those, that will burn your throat when you swallow it. That's the alcohol in it that's put in there as a disinfectant to kill germs. There's enough in there that you could easily blow a 0.02 on a breathalyzer. I'm just telling you that to be aware, because you're at the age where you can start driving. Y'all need to be very cautious about what you're doing so you don't end up getting charged. Field sobriety tests are when the police officer will get somebody out of their vehicle and they'll do physical tests with them. Now, they'll stop them for probably crossing the center line or weaving around, running through stop signs, or speeding, slowing down real slow, something. They're driving abnormally, they'll pull them over. And when they go to the driver's side door and ask for their license and registration, they're going to be looking directly in that driver's eyes, and they're looking for things to see if that driver is impaired. And They'll be listening to the person talking. If their speech is slurred or something like that, they're going to have them get out and do some physical tests to see if they're impaired. They'll have them do things like walk a straight line for a short distance, maybe from here to the end of that table, heel to toe, and turn around and come back the same way. They're looking to see, can a person do that? A sober person can easily do that. Somebody who's been drinking cannot. They'll be stumbling around, maybe even fall down, depending on how much they've had to drink. They may have them hold their hand out, touch their nose with their fingertip. They'll do a gaze astigmatism test where they'll move their finger back and forth and tell the person, don't move your head, just follow my fingertip with your eyes. At night, they'll use a flashlight. But they're looking for their eye movement. Sober person, our eyes move back and forth easily. Somebody who's been drinking, their eyes start and stop, kind of jerk. Clear test. Then they'll use a breathalyzer and charge the person based on that. What are the costs on these things? Well, first of all, it's a lot of money in fines and fees. For a first offense on a DWI, it is $400 up to $700 plus court costs. Court costs are $320, so you're automatically talking $720 up to $1,020 in fines, and between 1 and 7 days in jail, plus a defensive driving school, plus an alcohol education class that must be completed, and they have to come back to court to prove to the judge that they completed everything. Plus their license is suspended for 6 months, automatically, first offense. Second offense, it goes up from there. More expenses, more loss of license. Third and up, I mean, it gets worse and worse. At a fourth offense, it becomes a felony, and that's automatic prison time. Just for drinking and driving.
Is there a way to get
They can get their driver's license back after 6 months, but they got to pay to get that back. Another $100 or so just to get their license back. Oh yeah, it can be permanently suspended. Definitely. You get jail and prison time, which I mentioned, and the license loss. Okay. Yes.
That young lady is
Yes. Good question. She was asking on repeat offenders, is there a device in the vehicle that they have to blow into on their vehicle? Yes, and they have to pay to have it installed, but they have to blow into that to be able to turn the ignition on their automobile. The takeaway here is not cheap, and that's avoidable. You don't want any of this stuff to ever happen to you. And once you turn 21, you don't have to drink alcohol. That's a choice. But make it responsibly once you turn that age. All right, next clip. He's going to talk about what he was sentenced with. Afterward, I'll come back up and cover what those charges would cost here in Arkansas before I turn it over to the next couple of speakers. Oh, wait.
Worst part about being
I'm not going to show this one. He's just talking about what his prison cell looks like, and it's very small. You've already seen it anyway. So I want to go ahead and stop it right here. And Mr. Ron Hale is going to come forward, and he is going to talk about the dangers of railroad crossings. We have a lot of those here locally due to the big switch yard over in North Little Rock, and he's going to be talking to you about that. You're up.
Hi. Good morning. Thanks for letting me come again. My name's Mr. Hale. I did work for the railroad at one time. We're going to talk about a program that actually began with Union Pacific Railroad, a program called Operation Lifesaver. Matter of fact, this year is the 50th anniversary of Operation Lifesaver. I was actually doing this in the 25th year, so I've been doing this at 25 to 30 years, this program. Okay, let's get some of this. Every 3 hours in this country, we have a car-train collision or a pedestrian hit by train. Pedestrians are what? Somebody walking, okay. Every day in this country, 2 people will die somewhere at a railroad crossing. 70% are male drivers. Why? Men are more aggressive. We take more chances than ladies do, right? Look at that last one. 35% of people involved in car-train collisions are between the ages of 16 and 35. That's why we like it in high schools, driver's ed classes. I like the 9th grade health classes. Why? 9th graders just starting to drive, right? I love the 9th grade. I spent 3 good years of my life in 9th grade. Nobody got that? Okay. I'm kidding. I said that one school and the guy in the front row said, "Oh, you too?" And he was serious. True story. Okay. Anytime it's train time, I don't care if you're walking or in a vehicle, trains always have the right of way. The railroad did not come up with that. Supreme Court said trains will go first because it takes a train a lot longer to stop than does your car. If you're involved with a collision with the train, you're 20 times more likely to die in a car-train collision compared to car-car collision. 20 times more likely to sustain some kind of injury, broken back, severed arm, so on, compared to car-car collision. How many of you know a train cannot swerve to avoid you? That makes sense? You walk out from a train, pull up from a train in your car, see that red handle? That's the brake. You'll hit that brake and that's it. Nothing else you can do. What's missing on a train you have in your car? No steering wheel. So he can't make right hand, left hand turn to avoid you even if he wanted to. I like this cartoon here. Ha! I beat the train to the crossing again. How's it look at the back seat, Ma? Where's Ma at? Okay, Ma's not having a good day. Why do I use that cartoon as drivers? We think about ourselves getting across the tracks. We forget about people in the back seat. If you're driving, who rides in the back seat? Kids, little brother, little sister, maybe. Okay, maybe you take them to school or take them down to the ball game or whatever. Your car at 55 miles an hour, ideal conditions, good brakes, good tires, the pavement's dry, it takes them 200 feet to stop. There at the bottom, a freight train at that same speed will take at least 1 mile to stop. That's going to be on your test. It's going to take at least 1 mile for that train to stop. Why? The average freight train weighs 12 million pounds. He's on steel rails, steel wheels. At 55 miles an hour, it's going to take him at least 1 mile to stop or better. That's 18 football fields back and forth. Trains can stop, it's going to take it a while. Okay, we'll skip some of that. As you approach the railroad crossing, you're going to see the yellow sign. Sometimes, not always, the markings are on the pavement. I think we agree R&R stands for railroad, the big X stands for crossing. We call these advance warning signs. They tell me in advance, there's a railroad track ahead, be ready to stop in case the train's coming. There's going to be a double yellow line before you get to the track. What's the double yellow line? Can't pass. Do people still do it? Yeah, they still do it. All right, passive crossings. A passive crossing does not have any lights. They don't have these arms coming up and down. They just have the yellow sign or the familiar crossbuck sign. Crossbuck signs actually mean yield. If a train's coming, the train goes first. Sometimes, not always, there'll be a white line like there at the bottom of the page, just before you get to the tracks. If that white line is there, stay behind the white line while you wait on the train. Naturally, at a dirt road, gravel road, the white line won't be there. So stay back at least 15 feet. 15 feet is about the length of your car. Why 15 feet? We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, you got crossbucks, flashing lights without those arms. The moment those lights turn red, it becomes a stop sign. It does not mean hurry and get across. You stop, look both ways, no train's coming, you may proceed at your own risk. If a train's coming, you want to wait. If you do not stop, you just ran through a stop sign, you get a big ticket for it. I know one guy got a ticket for $450, so no throw-off. You stop, again, look both ways, no train's coming, you can go. But anytime you see an alarm come down, there's not a law that permits a police car, fire truck, or an ambulance to go around that arm. They may do it, there's no law that says they can. Even if these arms are down and no train coming, it is still against the law to go around it. Unless a policeman or railroad employee probably have a flag out there telling you to come around it. You go around that arm in Arkansas, I've talked to people who got tickets up to $1,000. By the way, you're not even supposed to walk around it. And these two men did that very thing, got impatient, went around the cross arm, they lost their life needlessly. That did not have to happen. This blue sign we call emergency notification system. It'll be posted on your signal, on your crossbuck. There'll be a telephone number, no telephone number, an 800 number. That is the number of the railroad responsible for that crossing. Underneath there'll be a 6-digit number followed by a letter, which is like the address for that crossing. So when I make that phone call, give them that number, they know exactly where that crossing is. Hopefully they'll come out and take care of the emergency as soon as possible. By the way, this is what the sign actually looks like posted. They're a lot smaller than you think they are. They're only about that big. It's going to require you to get out of your car to read that sign. And the big signs, people will sit in their car, try to read that sign while they're sitting in the car with a train coming. So the way it's angled, as small as they are, it's going to require you to get out of your car. You have multiple tracks at a crossing. It will indicate it right underneath the crossbuck. It has 3 tracks. Why is that important to know? You pull up there, train goes by, as soon as it goes by, I take off a train from a different direction on a different track, you end up getting hit. Before you cross, make sure you see clearly in both directions. Expect a train on any track at any time. 25% of collision with trains occur when a vehicle runs in the side of a train. 64% of those collisions occur in daylight hours. Why so high in daylight hours? More people travel during the daytime. Most of them hit the very first locomotive on the front, which tells us one thing. They're trying to outrun trains to get there at the same time, like this guy did. Here's a guy who thought he could outrun a train. Somebody was taking pictures of the train. When he caught on photo, with a pickup truck exploding from the train. Notice the signal. It's working. Half of all car-train collisions occur where signals are in place and working properly. If we have in every crossing, people are going to be injured, they're going to be killed because people choose to disregard them. By the way, we took this picture and enlarged it. Guess what we found? The guy's leg is he's flying out of the truck. There's his foot there, leg going right down through there. He was not wearing a seatbelt. He could have survived if he had a seatbelt on. You'll find out from Derek will talk here in a minute, you have a better chance of surviving any kind of crash if you stay inside of your vehicle. Because he was ejected from the vehicle, he lost his life. 3 don'ts, according to the driver manual, you don't pass within 100 feet of an intersection. Railroad crossings are considered intersections. You can and will be ticketed. You got a car that shifts, go across in the same gear. You don't want to be shifting going across, you hit the wrong gear and stall out. And make sure you have plenty of room on the other side of the tracks when you cross. Do not stop on the tracks for any reason. And I mentioned a while ago, make sure your car's in a clearance at least 15 feet from the tracks, in front of your car or the back of your car. Why? Trains overhang the tracks by at least 3 feet. The load behind them may go up about 5 feet. So I say get back 15 feet. Why is that? What if there's something like that hanging outside the train? Train does 60 miles an hour, they hit your car, it's going to mess your car up pretty bad. And what happens if my car does stall on the track? Do not spend a lot of time trying to get your car off the track. Find that blue sign. The quicker I can contact the railroad, the quicker I can get the train stopped. Naturally, train's already coming, too late to make a phone call. Get out of your car and move toward the train at a 45-degree angle away from the train. The reason I go toward the train, when that train hits your car, the debris from that car goes the same direction the train's going. Why 45-degree angle toward the train? Don't get hit by that, hang on outside the train. Distractions, I'll not spend any time on it. Darryl will be talking about distractions. About 3% of our collision with trains involve some kind of distraction in your vehicle. So, look both ways when you come to railroad tracks. Listen, that means sometimes your radio may be too loud, may not hear the train coming. Look and listen, and you will live. All right, got some quick videos here. This first one's called Idiot. You'll see why. That guy actually fell down at the end because the train actually hit his foot and knocked him down. This next one I call Dumb and Dumber. Your behavior influences people's behavior. somebody watches you do something, they say, hey, if they can do it, I can do it. That's dummy one. Dummy two. There you go. Oh, you know, I almost lost. All right, this next one happened in Stuttgart, Arkansas. I mentioned a while ago, people forget about people in the back seat of your car. So 18-wheelers forget about their trailers. This truck driver has been drinking beer. That means his judgment's been impaired. This is what alcohol will do for you. Okay, he kept going. He got about 3 blocks, dumped his beer out, still got caught. Okay, you do have a Facebook page. One other video here. Derek's going to be talking about bicycle safety. This will help you to get safe on a bicycle.
Made you jump, didn't he?
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm gonna be real brief. I don't want to take up too much.
Put them phones up.
Too much of your time. But yeah, if I could have your undivided attention, that means no distraction. Please put your phones away. I'll be, like I say, real quick. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about teen driving, distracted driving, and a little bit with bikes and pedestrian, bike and pedestrian safety. By the show of hands, how many of you all are driving already and have a license? That's the first problem there. you got an intermediate license or beginner license, or you in that phase? Okay, so cool. Like he stated earlier, the leading cause of death for teenagers right now in the state of Arkansas and in the United States is teen driving. Can anybody tell me why? Because what? Y'all call yourself dumb? This is all teenagers. You don't have to raise your hand, man. Just talk to me.
I think it would most likely be because their lack of experience.
Lack of experience.
And their inability to judge situations because of that.
I like the way you put that. The inability to judge situations based off experience. If you hadn't experienced something, you're not gonna know how to handle that situation when it occurs. Anybody else? Why are we losing our teenagers to teen driving? Huh? Alcohol? I hope teenagers not drinking and driving, but in some cases that is. Somebody said speeding. Speeding is definitely one. You gotta raise your hand. Just talk.
Driving by themselves without a note if they're like under 68.
This is true.
Someone will be not actually knowing all the road laws.
Not actually knowing all the facets of driving. Somebody else had something? Texting and driving. That's a distraction. Did you have something? Drugs. All of these play a part in why we're losing our teenagers. Okay? Ages 14 to 19. This is pretty much this group right here. What are y'all? Freshmen, sophomores, juniors? All 9th grade, freshman academy. I did my freshman year here in 2001 at Central High School, back when the tower was big. I can tell you exactly where I was at, in the basement, active physics, Coach Troutman class. I'm sure I think he at Southwest High School now. But yeah, are you ready for the road? So we're gonna talk a little bit about teen driving and distracted driving. First, I'd like to start with numbers. 14 children younger than the age of 14 years of age are killed and 2,719 are injured. This is younger than 14, okay? So our baby's not even having a chance to become teenagers. How many of y'all want to graduate? Cool. That's more than half of y'all. Cool. If you want to stay in high school, I mean, by all means, do what you need to do to get yourself together. But if you don't want to go to college, I'm sure everybody here has a future career or a job that they would love to have, an entertainer, or a state that they would love to visit, a country that they would love to see. We got to be able to get through high school first, y'all, and we are losing way too many teenagers right here starting at 9th grade because of negligence on the road. Y'all let that man through there. All right, 31 youth ages 14 to 19, your age, 31, are killed and 4,905 are injured. Leading cause of death, like I stated earlier, and Mr. Bagsby, is motor vehicle crashes in the United States. It's also the leading cause of death right here in the state of Arkansas. So, what are some things that you all can do to lower that? What can we do to lower that? If you talk to me, I'm telling you, I'll be real quick.
We can,
What can we do to lower the death rate? If the leading cause of death for teenagers is teen driving, what can you teenagers do to help yourself stay alive?
we can have someone who is able to judge situations in the car. We can stop texting and driving. We can wear seatbelts.
Seat belts. You took them the top two things I wanted to hear. What's up, my man? Put your phone down while you're driving, ladies and gentlemen. That's the main reason right there. Distracted driving. You gotta put them cell phones up while you're behind that wheel, okay? You gotta put your seatbelt on. You gotta go to speed limit. You have to slow down when you're in high pedestrian traffic areas. All of these things are everyday facets of the road. And if you don't practice that, then you don't know that. And then if you don't know that, accidents occur. When accidents occur, fatalities happen, injuries happen, lots of money is spent, and lots of time, I'd say, wasted, because a lot of this stuff could have been avoided had we did right initially. Okay? Looking at Arkansas, the death rate for teenagers is almost twice as high than the national rate. Little old Arkansas is almost 2 times as high the death rate for teenagers. What's going on here in Arkansas? What I don't know. Teenagers drinking now? That's what it is? Alright, so for y'all, you got something?
Maybe the driver's test is going too easy.
The driver's what now?
Test is going too easy.
The test
Yeah.
is
To get
too
a
easy?
license.
Oh, you talking about to take your to get your license?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's common sense, right? But guess what? Common sense is not so common. And let me tell you a thing about that driver's test. Years ago, when I took my driver's test in early 2000, it was a real quick process. It only took 30 days for me to have a full license. Now it takes you up to, if you get it at 14, you have to wait until you're 18 to get your full license. So what they found out back in 2000 and the late 90s is you came in, you took the written test. After the written test, you go home, you'd practice maybe a week. After that week or after that month, you'll go back and then you'll take your driver's test. The driver's test only consisted of you providing the vehicle at the Arkansas State Police headquarters. The trooper would get in the car with you. You'd go around in the parking lot. You'd never leave the parking lot, okay, number one. So what type of experience did that give us?
Almost none.
None. It taught us how to drive 20 miles per hour or 15 miles per hour in a parking lot. It taught us how to use our signal. It taught us how to check our mirrors and put our seatbelts on and be able to park. That was the only thing that the driver's test consisted of way back when. So when they gave a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old a full license, that death rate shot up tremendously. Why? Because nobody had experience. Nobody had experience on that road to conquer the everyday facets of life, okay? So that's why we are so high in Arkansas. And now we are really trying to hit home with our 9th graders, with our sophomores, with our 8th graders, everybody who's up and coming driving. It's better to, practice what you preach, but catch them early. That way they can, it becomes repetition. So if we can teach you now and you take it to heed, maybe you can apply it to your life and apply it to the people that are around you as well. I already talked about some different things that we can do. Let's talk about the primary seatbelt law. So back in June 30 of 2009, we had a seatbelt law to go into effect, which required every driver and passenger in the motor vehicle shall properly wear a fastened seatbelt. A lot of these vehicles nowadays that they're making, if you don't put that seatbelt on, you have a little annoying sound. Dee, 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 dee. Then it gets faster. Dee, 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 dee. It gets louder. And then it starts all the way over again until somebody put that seatbelt on. Don't turn your radio up, ladies and gentlemen. It's telling you to put your seatbelt on. Okay? If that is so annoying to you, why we can't take 2 seconds, 3 seconds to strap up? Why we can't do that? With the show of hands, how many of y'all wear your seatbelts and wear them every single time you get in the vehicle?
Well,
I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate, like, we keep it real. Keep it real with me. If you don't, you don't. That's fine. However, maybe after today, maybe this one time, you can put your seatbelt on. If you don't, that's on you. It's your life. I got mine. I'm living, okay? But for your safety, put your seatbelt on, ladies and gentlemen. What we did after this law passed, we kept 47 people alive who would otherwise be killed, simply because they had a seatbelt on. They were restrained. Even when the car crumbled up and rolled over 100 different times or crossed over the freeway and was smacked by an 18-wheeler, the person survived because the car is built for them to be held in that seatbelt, okay? We prevented 504 serious injuries, including injuries requiring lifelong care. Who would like lifelong care the rest of their life? The type of lifelong care I'm talking about is somebody that has to help you wake up. Somebody that has to help you use the restroom both ways. Somebody who has to help you take a shower. Somebody who has to help you eat. You can't do anything on your own. So is that the type of lifelong care you want? I didn't think so. So if a seatbelt can prevent that, why we can't take 2 or 3 seconds to put our seatbelts on, young people? That's it. Okay? And we also saved $104 million in economic costs. If we can save $104 million each year, think about the type of schools we can have here in Little Rock. Okay? Not only would they redo the gym, they probably could, I'm not saying they're going to redo that building because that is a historical monument. However, the upgrades, the AC, the heat, the fields, all of this around our schools within the Little Rock School District, and not just Central. A lot of different things can be put into education. We can pay our teachers, and maybe you might just want to come to school and receive a better education, right? So it's a lot of money that we are spending on people not wearing their seatbelts that could actually be put into something different, okay? Let's talk about the GDL. So for my ones who do have licenses, you're probably either a learner's license or an intermediate license. If you have your full license, you gotta be 18. I don't think nobody in here is 18 right now if y'all all freshmen. Okay? So, with that being said, let's talk about GDL. What it does, it extends the supervised driving period until 18. So, the difference between learner and intermediate is simply the distance or the miles traveled. They want you to travel up to 1,000 to 1,500 miles in a vehicle, and then you'll receive your intermediate license. What that does is it gets you acclimated to outside and driving. Okay? What it does is restricts known distracting factors like cell phones and teenage passengers. If you are a teenager, you can't have another teenager in your vehicle unless you are accompanied by an adult, a responsible adult, over the age of 21. What does a responsible adult look like? Someone who has a valid driver's license. You good, my man? Great, y'all playing with Crocs back there, man? I'm really trying to save your life and put you on some game, man. If you don't want to hear, you don't want to hear, but don't disturb nobody else. That's my only thing. See what a distraction would do? A distraction would take everybody's time and focus off of the deal. And now we're worried about something else that's completely irrelevant. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Also, what it does, it requires immediate supervision during nighttime driving, with the exceptions of school and work. With Central being a 7A school, I know a lot of times we travel up northwest Arkansas to Fayetteville and Bentonville area. Good. After those games, we come back home. We make it here maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, what GDL does, it allows you all to drive simply from school straight to the house. You still can't have any passengers in your vehicle, and you have to report straight to the house. If you are pulled over, your license can be taken. Once your license is taken at this age, you probably won't get it back, unless you're gonna spend a lot of money. And I'm talking about some stacks. It's gonna cost a couple $100 to get your license reinstated, okay? Your insurance quote might go up on your parents. Not only that, you're gonna have to go pay for defensive driving school. Not only that, we got community service. It's a lot of different avenues that the judge can take based off of whatever violation you violated when it comes to GDL. So this is strictly like a provisional license, okay? They give you an inch and you take them out, they will take that thing back so quick, and you won't see it until 18. And then once you do turn 18, like I said, it's gonna cost you a whole lot of money or a little piece of money in order to get it back like you need it, okay? So, do right. You have to have a responsible adult in the car with you when you are in learners or intermediate, age of 21. That's gonna be on the test, y'all remember that. And also the miles traveled, the difference from learner to intermediate, 1,000 to 1,500. All right. Got a quick video I want to show you.
If you forget to wear your seatbelt, just that once, ask yourself, who are you prepared to kill? Family? Friend? Someone special you love? Without a seatbelt, it only takes one trip to kill. No seatbelt, no excuse. From DOE.
Yes, sir.
How long has GDL been in place?
I want to say 2014, 2015. It's still new. It took about 10 years though for it to actually take place. Did that answer your question? Okay. So, how many people survived that car crash? Everybody had their seatbelt on except for Dewey. I'm glad you observed that. So, how many people survived that car crash?
All of them except him.
All of them except for the person who threw out? Jack? Is that your name? You remember me? Fulbright, man. I had dreadlocks. I taught dude in elementary. That's crazy. So check this out. The guy who flew out the window, he was unrestricted. Everybody else was. So what happened was his neck was snapped. Everybody's neck was snapped. It only takes 2 pounds of pressure to snap someone's neck, okay? So if your body is flying at this velocity, at that rate, you gotta multiply 150 times however fast we're traveling. And that's the total pounds of pressure that a human body has, okay? So what happened is he slammed on brakes. He went left, he went right, head-butted both of them. Automatic fatalities, okay? Once the brakes were hit, my guy flew through the front windshield. On his way traveling through the front windshield, he also hit the driver and the passenger, killing everyone in that vehicle because one person was not restrained, okay? So let me tell you this, and this is food for thought. This is something to always think about, especially as 9th graders, okay? If you are a passenger, first of all, look around here in this gym right now. These are our friends, these are our peers right now, okay? Do you trust anybody in here with your life? No. That's an easy question. That deserves an easy answer, okay? And I appreciate your honesty. That is perfect. So if you don't, always keep this in mind. If you are a passenger, that driver has your life in their hands. And you're trusting them to make the right decisions and to do right. And you're gonna be a good steward as a passenger and sit down in your seat with your seatbelt on and not distract the driver, okay? Always keep that in mind. If you don't trust anybody with your life, then think twice before hopping in a vehicle. Now, my drivers, you have to be the utmost. You have to be very, very responsible. Keep in mind that everybody that is in your vehicle, their life is in your hands. So if we have a crash and the passengers pass away and the driver is still alive, that's something you gotta live with for the rest of your life. You gotta face your friends' parents every single time you see them. In the grocery store, out here on the street. Little Rock is very small. Very, very small. You're gonna see them. You're gonna run into them. Even if you move out of state, it'll be nationally posted about something. And it's always gonna travel and trail with you for the rest of your life. Anybody familiar with Henry Ruggs?
No.
Heck of a football player for Alabama Crimson Tide. Won three national championships at the high level. Okay? Went first round draft pick. Signed $1 million contract for Las Vegas Raiders. Big boy money. Went and bought a Corvette. He's out in Vegas, kicking it, hanging out one night. Takes his car. He's going 130 miles per hour down the street. He hits a car. The person in that car instantly dies. Her animal in that vehicle instantly dies. He has 2 counts of murder because he was traveling so fast. He didn't die, but he lost everything he ever had, and he gained it so quick and lost it even faster. I'm talking about millions and millions of dollars, people. He's not in jail anymore. However, he's on lockdown. He broke. He broke because he got to pay out all this money. And then guess what? That money not coming back. The Raiders waived his contract. All his endorsements, they waived all of his rights. So he lost all of that. And now he's just a regular human being because of one simple mistake of speeding. So when you get in these vehicles, please, 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 be very, very cautious. All right, we just talked about seatbelt usage. So in the United States, we're at 90%. 90%, that's an A. It's decent, but we could be better. Now the state of Arkansas is at 84. We can be way better if teen driving is the leading cause of death here in the state of Arkansas, and we only get 84%. That math ain't mathing, right? 1 + 1 is 2, right?
Yeah.
So why we got the highest death rates, but we got the lowest percentage rate of seatbelt usage? That the math ain't mathing. Y'all gotta help me, help yourselves. When you get in these vehicles, please strap up. Tell your parents to strap up. If your little sister and your little brother ain't in a car seat, they need to be seated and strapped up as well, okay? Nationally, in 2020, there were 182,150 teenagers ages 14 to 19, all injured in motor vehicle crashes. That's enough teenagers to fill up the Razorback Stadium 3 times. Anybody ever been to Fayetteville and saw one of them games? That's a huge stadium. When they get to yelling woo pig suey, the whole atmosphere shakes. So think of that, 3 times that many people, all injured teenagers because they simply didn't have a seat. That's a lot of children we losing and injuring in a year's time, ladies and gentlemen. And then in 2020, just 2 years ago, more than 2,500 teenagers your age were killed. And guess what? 53%, that's more than half of them were unrestricted, or unrestrained, which means they did not have a seatbelt on. Had they had their seatbelt on, that 53% probably could have dropped to 20. Some car crashes, that seatbelt is not gonna save you, depending on how fast you're going, or if it's a head-on collision, or what type of injuries you may run into during that. All of that is unpredictable, okay? All right, so why target teens? Well, this is why. Teens take risks. All my 9th graders in here, freshmen, y'all taking risks, baby. Why we taking all these risks? Like we can keep living and keep living. Okay, once it's gone, okay? Please, please, please be mindful of that. You can't take too many risks as a teenager, okay? Give in to peer pressure. Peer pressure in the 9th grade, 10th grade, I done been in them shoes. You'll find yourself in a whole lot of places you ain't got no business being simply because your friend was there, or your brother was there, or your cousin did this and you wanted to try it. You find yourself in some messed up situations because of peer pressure, okay? Overestimate their abilities. Somebody said that when I was asking about what can we do to kind of change that, or why is the death rate so high for teenagers? Because they underestimate their abilities. Once you get behind that wheel and you're going over 100 miles per hour, you think it feels cool and it's fun. As soon as you take your eyes down and you lift up, you didn't travel 2 football fields that quick, traveling at that speed. So imagine what you can hit at that point. There's all kind of potholes in the state or in this city of Little Rock, okay? You hit one of them potholes going 40, 50 miles per hour, that's an automatic flat tire. You get a flat tire traveling at that speed, we're gonna flip. We're gonna flip until that car loses the inertia or the motion that it's traveling, okay? Have emotional mood swings. Fellas, ladies, y'all get real moody at this age. Real moody. Somebody can say something about your Android, you ain't got no iPhone, y'all ready to box. Somebody say something about your Black Forces, y'all ready to box. A lot of this stuff is out of your jurisdiction. This is what your parents give you. You ain't got no means to go and get it yourself. But y'all want to clown each other about that, and then once you do, we have emotional mood swings. You find yourself going down University 60 miles per hour because of something somebody said. That's very, very dangerous, and you're putting a lot of people in harm and in dangerous way by doing things like that, okay? And then have the brains that are not fully mature. Once you have that mental capacity, you will learn how to handle those mood swings. You will learn how to handle peer pressure, but you have to go through some things in order to get there, okay? Novice drivers, crash risk drops 2/3 almost after the first 1,000 to 1,500 miles traveled. That's why GDL was put into place, okay? Within that 1,000 to 1,500 miles, they love for you to travel. They love for you to drive on highways, state highways, streets, interstates, backcountry roads. You gotta learn the everyday facets of the road. It's very, very dangerous if you are clueless. So when something happens, you're more prepared. They want you to drive in some rain. In Arkansas, we do get sleet, a little ice, and some snow, and then the next day it may be 90 or 100 degrees. But you need to learn how to drive in those type of conditions so you can handle the pressures of the road once you are by yourself, okay? 16-year-olds have a crash rate that is approximately 3 times greater than 17-year-olds, 5 times greater than 18-year-olds, and 2 times greater than 85-year-olds. Battle of the sexes. Talking to my boys real quick. In 2020, 35% of male drivers ages 14 and 19 involved in fatal crashes were speeding. Boys, why we out of speed? What we showing off? Is just testosterone? What is it? Because you still only get one life. And guess what? When you speed down and doing whatever it is, the folks that looking like, look at this fool. Look at this fool. Now I know y'all got TikTok and y'all been seeing all these SRTs or these Chargers and Magnums or whatever the case may be, Challengers, and they doing donuts right in the middle of a street. But guess what? They lose control while they doing donuts and then get wrapped around a light pole in that same parking lot. And everybody like, woo! Well, shoot, you done totaled your car, you hurt. Now you got doctor's bills because you out here you overestimating your abilities, okay? Once that car is out of control, it's out of control. Ain't no getting it back, okay? Nobody in here is a professional driver. And even professional drivers lose control of their vehicles, and they know you need to let that wheel go and let the car do whatever it's gonna do. Because as soon as you stop it and you change that direction, that's when it starts to flip. But if you've never experienced that, you wouldn't know that, okay? 24% of all fatal crashes happen between midnight and 6 a.m. So what GDL says is, teenagers, after 11 o'clock, you should be in the house, unless school, church, or work. That's the only reason that you would be allowed to be out driving, okay? And it restricts it from going to, from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. All those times, no teenager should be on the road unless they are accompanied by a responsible 21-year-old adult. All right, so we done talked about the lack of seatbelt usage, and 53% of teenagers killed in car crashes were unrestrained. We can also hit on cell phones and distractions. Cell phones and distractions. Crash risk, 4 times higher. 4 times higher when that cell phone is in use. Coach just told y'all put your cell phones up right now, I still see 6 of them. I ain't gonna call you out though. That's what I be saying. See how look at the distractions that cell phones really cause y'all. Ain't nobody sending no Snapchat or no message right now, and if they is, they ain't talking about nothing that's important. Nothing. Okay? GDL using a cell phone is prohibited unless it's an emergency. If it is an emergency, they want you to pull over, then pull out their phone. Okay? With their car in park, you need to take care of whatever it is you need to do. No nighttime driving, passengers. You can only have, crash risk with one teen passenger increases by 40%. 40%. So just like dude was sitting back, you trying to show you this or whatever, they gonna do that same thing in their car while y'all driving, and you're not gonna think about it. Oh, I'm driving, I'm going 60 miles per hour. Oh, somebody just sent this, and they showing you this. And next thing you know, y'all upside down somewhere, bleeding out because of a distraction. Things to know. No tolerance for DUI or fatigue driving for any young person. They will revoke your license, which means they take it, and it's gonna cost you money and time and work in order to get it back. Okay? Wear your seatbelt 100% of the time. Limit the passengers for 6 to 12 months. So if you're just now learning in that beginner stage, you really don't even want no passengers in your car, because guess what? You're learning. So as you're learning and somebody else is in the car, you hit that gas too hard, y'all, that's a distraction, because somebody else gonna laugh at you while you trying to learn. Okay? So that's a distraction, and it's gonna really bring your self-esteem down on driving, number one, because somebody laughing at you. So in your beginner phases, do that all alone by yourself or have an adult. What my time look like? 2? Alright, real quick, on bike and pedestrian safety, the lack of traffic law awareness. Lack of traffic law awareness, ladies and gentlemen. If you're driving, there's one thing I need to show you, and that is these hand signals right here. Bicycles are allowed to be on the streets. Even if there is a bicycle lane, even if there is a sidewalk, bicycles have the right to take the bicycle lane or take the street. Yes, sir.
Isn't a bicycle on the street considered to follow the same laws as a motorcycle?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. They follow the same process, same policy as vehicles as motorcycles. If you happen to ride a bicycle out on the street, we ask that you wear a helmet. Most teenagers or children that come to the hospital from riding bikes and from injuries, they suffer from traumatic brain injuries, and a lot of them were not wearing a helmet. Okay? Any questions, any concerns? Thank y'all. The lights.
All right, hey, listen, it's now lunchtime.